Hey everyone, Andrig with Andrig's Aircooled technology. Just wanted to give a quick update on what I'm doing with cooling fans. So if you've been following along, you know that I stopped selling the dual inlet cooling fans that were 3D printed. Um, Working on a solution. I think I understand probably what's happening with the failures and why, and I have a design change as well as I'm sending out a part to some people to use that could prevent the things from failing. So we'll see kind of how that goes. I'm just going to take that slow and not put a tremendous amount of effort into it. Instead, I'm going to do two things, I think. One is for sure because I started the process today. I'm going to bring back the original lightweight cooling fan, which was injection molded. That fan performed well and definitely was bulletproof in terms of not having failures, right? So I have a small change to an engineering change to the mold. That's now on its in process. I've reordered the mounting hardware pieces to be CNC machined. That's in process. That will be in process. It's under review because whenever you order really large amounts, they manually review it. But it's something that was manufactured before, so that shouldn't take long. I would expect tomorrow that those would be set and ready to go into production, and we'll be getting that done. And so we'll bring back that lightweight cooling fan. It's the straight radial blade design. And in conjunction, I think that fan will perform really well with my new velocity rings, which I have a separate video that I've just posted that talks about that as well. And so I think there's really good performance there to be had. Not as good as the dual inlet fan. So that's kind of number two. So while I've been working on a solution for the squirrel cage style fans that were 3D printed, I just had the ideas like, well, if I can make a squirrel cage fan that's double-sided, why can't I make a straight radial blade fan that's double-sided? That could also be injection molded, which with the material I was using and the process, that was bulletproof. Early in the lightweight cooling fans, I think the very first like two I sold, they broke, right? But they broke not because there was any problem with the fan that I was using or depending on the stock mounting hardware. So I sold a lot of those while I developed the new mounting solution for that. And, probably less than 10 actually failed, broke in some way until I got the new. But I was sending out, as people was ordering them, sending out technical bulletin with the fan saying, don't recommend installing this just yet. I'll send you the free upgrade on the mounting solution that'll solve this problem. And so a lot of people just held on to them until they got their free mounting, solution. Since the introduction of the mounting solution, there have been no failures. So, and I have customers who've been asking for why I'm not selling them, why they want to buy another one, that kind of thing. And I wasn't selling them really just because I developed this new dual inlet fan, which obviously even gave greater performance in terms of cooling. But then we started running into some of the failures, right? So some people are still running that fan right now, and it's been fine for them. Just had a customer email us, just took a 400-mile round trip and has been using the fan. Great. Had another customer email me saying he's been running his Super Beetle. It works so good. His engine builder wanted to buy a couple, but he doesn't see them for sale, etc. So there's been success, and obviously the product just worked in terms of cooling. That was definitely proven out in the field. In fact, I had a customer just recently tell me in email that it's working too well for him as the weather has cooled off. He lives in Nevada, so we're not talking about cold weather like I'm getting here. We had close to between 2 and 3 feet of snow, probably around 2.5 feet. The snow just recently. It's been cold here. Not that kind of weather, obviously, in Nevada, but that is that the fan was doing too well in the cooler weather, It was great in the hot weather during the summer and stuff. In this cooler weather, he's saying that his cylinder head temperature isn't even hitting 200 degrees, right? So the fan works, and it works really, really well. So I'm like, well, can I make a dual-sided straight radial blade fan that could be injection molded with the same material I was using before and using the same mounting system and what have you? There's some complications to that, and of course I already have the inlet designed and that, and there were some problems with the inlets, but I redesigned the inlets to the point where they shouldn't have any issues. I changed the material as well, so the design is much more robust. It doesn't, the inlet backing plate combination, it doesn't care what the diameter of the alternator is anymore in the design, and with the new material and the much beefier design everywhere, that thing, should be bulletproof again. So, and as long as the fan is completely bulletproof, that's probably the biggest thing. So, so with that, I have been designing a straight radial blade version of a dual inlet fan, and I have a design that's really, it's good for 3D printing, for just test fitting and everything. So I've got one printing right now. If that test fits and everything really well, then I'll move into, I'm already trying to make the design changes for injection molding. So if you're not familiar with the manufacturing of anything that's injection molded, you have to have what's called draft angles on certain features in order that the product can actually be ejected from the mold in an automated fashion. And it doesn't have to be pried out manually or something like that with people. And so there's injection pins that are designed into the mold, and those push out on the product, and it just pops out. You got a product, right? So, all that can be automated. It's one of the reasons the per part cost can be good. Although the per part cost is a little misleading because you have to amortize the cost of the molds, and the molds are expensive. But I already own this mold, and I'm making just one small change to it, which should improve the performance of the fan just slightly, and which is fine. But it just wasn't completely necessary. But already owned this small mold, already had made well over 500 of those and sold them all. So so with that, we're bringing back that. I'm going to attempt to do a dual inlet version of that straight radial design. I think that's just a better path forward for just knowing it's bulletproof, right? I did a ton of testing on those 3D printed fans, and I didn't have any problems, right? So, and like I said, a lot of customers have been using it fine, but there's been way too many failures for my taste anyway. And it's not that it's a super high percentage. Of the ones I know about, it's probably about 5% of the fans have failed, right? So that's just too much, right? If it was 1 or 2, that's one thing. You get 5%, you're not talking about, 0.25% of fans have failed. You're talking 5%. So I don't have the confidence, right, that I can just tell a customer, hey, you're gonna be fine. Now this fix that I am, temporary fix I'm shipping out to some people, and this design change, which I might make one and send it to a customer, may prove that that's all that was necessary, right? And so if that's the case, we might bring those back. But I think for right now, the best way forward is to see if I can, get a mold made for a dual inlet version of a straight radial design that's injection moldable. So you can't injection mold a squirrel cage design just because you can only do it in 2 parts. There's just no way to eject it from a mold. You have to do it in 2 parts, and then you have to do something like sonic weld it or do some kind of plastic welding, and then that weld seam becomes a weak point. And it's likely under these circumstances that weld point will just fail, and the fan will fly apart, right? So in that regard, I just don't feel like I want to invest that much more time, energy, and money into something that I'm just not 100% sure about. And I can put my 3D printers to use with other things. So, like the velocity rings are 3D printed, so those will be, perfectly fine being 3D printed. It definitely won't fall apart on you or anything like that. Using a very high quality, again, thermoplastic. In this case, glass filled for the velocity ring. So that's not going to have any issues with it, and they're not under load stress, right? So either. So they're not going to fall apart because of bad layer adhesion issues either, right? So not with my high quality industrial 3D printers and the filaments that I'm using. So that's possible on some on some consumer machines, trying to print something like a carbon fiber nylon. It might just fall apart. And so I can put that to use for that, and it's fine. And I have some development I'm doing on velocity stacks for carburetors and throttle bodies, etc. So those will be 3D printed as well. And again, it's just another simple application for 3D printing where things aren't under a tremendous amount of load strength as the engine's running. So, and even if a velocity stack or the velocity ring were to fail for some reason, which they just won't, unless someone just breaks them on their own. Unless that happens, they're just going to last basically forever. So, and even if they failed, you'll get a little bit less cooling efficiency because the velocity ring's, broken or whatever. Or if a velocity stack, you'll get, different airflow into your engine, but your engine will run. It won't die. It won't, you won't overheat it. You won't kill it, right? So, where this kind of sensitivity is, failure causes you to overheat your engine, potentially cause damage to your engine. That I just can't take any chances with. So I think that's going to be my way forward in terms of bringing cooling fans back. Will be the straight radial blade design, which can be injection molded, and just do a dual inlet version. So that's what I'm working on there. I think everyone was really happy with the original lightweight cooling fan, with really kind of two exceptions that got posted on the Samba. But I kind of know what was going on with those two exceptions. So in one case, the guy was experiencing significant belt slip because of his gear ratios and his gear ratios and the speed he was driving at, and he was trying to overturn the fan with a 1.8 ratio pulley from using a older generation, Porsche pulley. It's just not necessary, right, for these things. And I think it's likely too that the speed at which he was driving was causing somewhat of air starvation into his engine bay. I can't prove that part, but the other parts all make sense. I did all the calculations. He was driving his belt slip all the way down to about 3,700 RPM. So if your belt is slipping at 3,700 RPM, and you're driving at 3,900 RPM over long distances in a heavy vehicle, because when you just produce more airflow from the fan, it uses more horsepower. It moves that down, and then you're trying to spin it faster, it moves it down even further, right? So the dual inlet version of that, though, because of the way the inlet works, drives the horsepower needed to flow that much more air down relative to, just makes the whole system more efficient. So there's less of that issue. So I'm really comfortable with that, and I know even a customer told me that with that straight radial original design, he had seen a 45-degree drop in his cylinder head temps, right? So that wasn't the case with everybody, and not everybody has cylinder head temp gauges. And of course, I have my standalone fan shrouds. These fans will definitely work. New fans will definitely work in the standalone fan shroud, which already produces by itself with an OEM fan a lot more air. So that's kind of the three prongs of this, right? Velocity rings, straight radial blade design, single inlet and dual inlet, and then my fan shrouds, which just on their own produce significantly more airflow. So, and then of course you got combinations of the above. And so with all of that, I think I'll be back to kind of a complete solution for people, regardless of where you are on the spectrum of cooling needs, right? So, the lowest budget, easiest combination will be the straight radial blade design, single inlet with a velocity ring. That should get you, pretty close to what the dual inlet fans were doing without a velocity ring. So I think we're being in the ballpark, and we'll have something bulletproof for you guys. So appreciate the support on this. I appreciate everyone who's been working with me. I know that people have had fan failures. Been, I've, in some of those cases, we just, they had my fan shroud. We just, I paid for them to just put a regular fan into it with the backing plate. It's all compatible. So, and people have been real happy with the results of that. So, so we're doing the best we can. Obviously, I can't just replace, hundreds and hundreds of fans, right? So, but we're doing the best we can, and hopefully, if you have one and it's working for you and it continues working for you, great. We hope that continues. If not, you can switch over to some of these new products, and hopefully in the next month, we will have the straight radial blade design back in stock and ready to ship. It'll roughly take a month, maybe just a little bit longer with shipping and stuff. But so hopefully in the middle of December, all this will be back and available for you guys. And so that's what we're hoping for. So appreciate all the support. I know this has been kind of trying, really, and it certainly has been trying on my end, because I just don't want to sell something that I'm not, 100% comfortable with for you guys. And the straight radial design is just proven. So I've got a customer out there, quite a few customers out there, been running it in their cars for more than 4 years. I know some racers who have been running it, and I just got an email from one just last week, wondering if I would bring that back because they love them and they use them on all their cars, and they're building 2 new cars and they would like, to put those on there. So, so those are coming back. So that's the good news, and I think the whole thing is kind of good news in terms of getting this thing moved forward, where we'll have a reliable product that you can just count on. You can install it, forget it, and it's just going to work for you, and you won't have to worry about whether it fails. And if you're like some of the people who have, I've talked to customers, some of these, it's their daily driver car, right? It's the car that they depend on, and they can't just be driving down the road wondering whether the fan's going to, fail on them, right? So, so I appreciate that, and doing everything I can to get us back on track and get you guys products that you can count on and that I can be comfortable with. So appreciate it, and hopefully you guys find this as good news, and we'll bring those back, and I'll have another announcement as soon as they're available. So thank you. Bye-bye.